Now, before you immediately leave a dislike on this video, let me say something. Bluey is now up as one of my favorite cartoons of all time. There are so many things I like about the show, but not every show is spotless. Shows that I really enjoy, like SpongeBob and South Park, do have a few duds, and I feel like Bluey has a couple that I'd like to talk about. These are episodes that really didn't click onto me as much as other episodes in the first season, and I'm here to explain 5 of those episodes in this countdown. Now remember, this is my opinion. You don't have to hate these episodes, and if you like any of the episodes I mentioned, that is not a problem at all. Though, don't criticize me for not liking these episodes as much as any of you do. I have my reasons, and I'll explain why in this video. But don't be shy to say what episodes of the show you don't like in the comments section below. Anyway, let's begin.
Oh boy, here comes the meltdown.
Number 5.
I hope we can show you a good time too. What do you reckon, kids?
Yeah!
Hey, it's mine! Let go!
It's Bingo's turn to take Bob Bilby home, who's a puppet. The family tries to give Bob a fun weekend until they start to get attracted to their electronic devices. When they realize the inactivity they're doing, they ditch the electronics for a day to give Bob Bilby the best day ever. Now, this may be the most controversial pick on my list. I'll admit, the message in this episode is good, and it's executed well too. There are even some funny bits in it as well, but there's something that prevents me from really liking this episode, and I honestly can't put my finger on it. It could be that I just really like electronic devices, and them kind of shooting down electronic devices feels wrong, I guess. I don't know. Again, I understand the message they're going with, and it's a good message. It's just, I don't know why I get that vibe. Also, I guess this episode feels hypocritical to me. We should all go outside and have real fun and not watch cartoons, despite watching this cartoon right now. And I guess it's the way I interpret this episode. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate this episode, but for some reason, I'm a minority with this one. Not one of my favorites.
Are you ready, Bob? Woo!
Oh boy, here comes the meltdown.
Number 4.
Make sure you watch out for drop bears.
What bears? Are you joking?
Yeah, I'm joking. But seriously, watch out for snakes.
Bluey, Bingo, and Mackenzie are having a boring day at the playground. Mackenzie decides to show everyone the creek, but Bluey is scared until she finds out how fun and even beautiful the creek is. Truthfully, I found this episode to be boring. Aside from a couple Bluey moments and all of Bandit's moments, nothing really stuck with me. I hear people say that this episode shows the beauty of nature, but I thought the beach did a much better job at that. I really liked that episode, and it does have its moments of beauty in it. That's the episode I recommend over the creek. It's done better there in my opinion. Another popular choice that really didn't grab on to me.
Come on, Bluey. It's just like jumping from one sheep to another. We don't jump on sheep, Mackenzie. Really?
Oh boy, here comes the meltdown.
Number 3.
Aha! Here you go. Huh? Do you take bananas?
Yes.
You do? Oh, what luck!
Bluey, Bingo, Muffin, and Socks decide to play backpackers, where Bandit and Chili have to carry them. As they go on their adventure, hijinks ensue along the way. This is gonna sound weird, but I found this episode to be a bit cruel. The kids are being demanding the entire time, and I know it's supposed to come out as childish, but it's kind of on the unpleasant side. Like, I've seen the kids act bratty in the show, and for most of the episodes, I don't mind. But here, it goes a little far for me. I know it sounds strange, and I might be taking this episode too seriously, but I can't shake that feeling off of me when I think about this episode. I guess it's with the other episodes where they get bratty, they learn a lesson and learn not to do that. Here, there's no lesson to be learned, and it just gives an unpleasant feeling to me. There are a couple good moments in this, but it's mostly Bandit and Chili being forced to do what they say. It's not really fun for me.
Yeah! We can be the backpacks! And Mum and Dad have to carry us
I told you it doesn't work. Oh boy, here comes the meltdown.
Number 2.
You just have to go like this when you want something. Meow, meow. Meow, meow. Meow, meow.
Now we get to the episodes that sadly gain a real negative reaction out of me. Bluey, Mackenzie, Chloe, and Honey decide to play shops, but Bluey keeps stalling to add things to the game, angering her friends, especially Mackenzie. The first, I'll call it nitpick I have with the episode, is that it's a bit repetitive in a bad way. But I call it a nitpick because it does have a point. It's to get to the episode's message. Speaking of that, the episode has a really good message. Bluey learns not to be bossy, and Mackenzie learns not to be impatient, which are good lessons to learn. And the episode's going on a really good track. But then the story writes in Rusty, which completely destroys the moral they should have stuck with. What should have happened is the 4 stayed as 4, and they actually played the game with learning their lesson. When they add in a 5th character, it just destroys the story. And it also feels really unrealistic. People just don't pop out of thin air to help solve your problems. When it's just the 4 of you, you need to fix it yourselves. And when it's just the 4, this would have not only made for a really good message, but it would have been a really good episode. Again, it was going on such a good track, but when they add a 5th character, it just destroys it. And even when Mackenzie apologizes, he still acts kind of like a jerk, so it's like nothing really was solved, and it's just really upsetting for me. It just completely derails this episode.
But I like being the kitten. Please, honey, you can be the shopkeeper. What? No way.
Man, I didn't know I'd get this frustrated over a kid's show, but unfortunately, it gets worse. Though before I get to number 1, I'd like to bring up one honorable mention. This episode isn't bad, but I do have one big problem with it. Copycat. I don't hate this episode, but I feel like they could have dealt with the topic of death better. The first half of the episode is great, but I feel like it shouldn't have been a first half. If they did it later in the episode, I feel like it would have been better. And for an episode called Copycat, they only do it for like 2 minutes. It should have been called Budgie instead or something like that. But wait a minute. I just realized it's called Copycat because in the second half they recreate the first half. It still doesn't make the episode better. I'm sorry. Again, not a terrible episode, but when you're dealing with the topic of death, even for Bluey, it could have been much better. This show talked about friendship separation in one of the best ways I've ever seen it. So Bluey can do kind of serious topics really well. I just wish they could have done death better. Now on to sadly what I call the worst episode of Season 1, and that is...
Oh boy, here comes the meltdown.
Number 1.
This is unacceptable.
Huh? What?
It's been braided.
So's yours.
Mine too!
Ah, you know what this means?
What?
We've got fairies!
Bingo makes a domino heart for Bandit. When she tries to get his attention, he tells her to stop, making her sad. For the rest of the episode, random occurrences happen as the family tries to hide from the fairies. Now, before I begin my rant, the episode has a good opening. A plot revolved around this could have made a good story, but what the writers went with left me frustrated. The whole episode is supposed to revolve around trying to get Bandit to apologize to Bingo.
But what do the fairies want?
Maybe one of us hurt the fairies' feelings?
First off, the family treats Bandit really poorly, even though all he did was tell Bingo to stop tugging at his tail during an important phone call. While humiliating Bandit minorly annoyed me in Pirates, it's much worse here. For those who are wondering, in the episode Pirates, Chili humiliates Bandit because he didn't want to make weird noises around other people. But it worked because Missy, who was afraid throughout the episode, not only is the one that convinces Bandit to be brave, but does so in a nice way, making it feel way less mean-spirited. There, she conquers her fear of playing a dangerous game, and is the perfect role model to help Bandit conquer his fear. In Fairies, it's just way too mean. Even with that, Bandit's all for playing the fairy game, even though this is to humiliate him and make him apologize to Bingo. It makes no sense. I will admit that the climax is kinda sweet, since it shows how much he really does care for Bingo, and it even has one of my favorite lines in the show, but it doesn't redeem everything else that happens in this episode. If I were to make an episode with this premise, I think it would go like this. Bingo makes the domino heart, Bandit's on the phone call, Bingo tries to get his attention, Bandit snaps at Bingo, she knocks out the dominoes, and then hides somewhere in the house. Bandit sees the heart and tries to find Bingo, almost like a game of hide-and-seek. Heck, it could have been a better hide-and-seek episode than the actual hide-and-seek episode we got, but I digress. In the end, Bandit would apologize to Bingo while also explaining how he was in the middle of something important. There, Bingo would learn a lesson about patience, and everyone would be happy in the end. That would have been a great episode, but what we got here seriously makes me angry when I think about it. But let me finish this rant up. In the end, we find out that fairies do exist in the world of Bluey, and I have a problem with that. Despite the people being anthropomorphic dogs, the world was so grounded in reality, which really worked for the show. It helped push the morals the show made, making them more effective on kids. That's one reason why I really adore this show. But adding some fantasy to it kinda bugs me. Overall, a super disappointing episode for me.
You have to look for fairies with your heart.
My heart says they're under here. It's just tips.
Jeez, I apologize for my rant. I just really wanted to get that off my chest. And like I said in the beginning, if you like any of the episodes I mentioned, that is totally okay. That doesn't make you a horrible person. Maybe you guys see something in these episodes that I can't. That'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on these episodes and why you guys possibly like them. They'd probably get me to see them from a different point of view. But I'm still very excited to see what Season 2 has to offer. So, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. Also, comment down below what episodes you're not a fan of. Consider subscribing for more top lists as well as other content. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.